Welcome back to Rolling History. In this episode, we're going to rebuild the clutch on the car, so let's go get at it. Okay, so yesterday I started working on the clutch, and I took off all the linings. I had it videoed, but when I came back to the camera, it had shut off, so I guess you don't get to see that. I basically drilled out all the rivets, just like on the brake linings, and then punched out the rivets and took the linings off. And a couple things, the old lining is kind of like a, I don't know, more similar to the brake linings, but the new linings are much more modern. They're some kind of composite, so that's one difference. Also, I ordered this from Myers Early Dodge, and if you do it, if you're going to take on this project, there are exactly 52 rivets in the kit, so I can't ruin any. If I had known that, I would have ordered 10 or so extra. They're dirt cheap. So if you're going to tackle this project, I suggest you get a few extra rivets, because the chances of getting them all done without making a mistake is fairly slim. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all the pieces of the clutch here and go run them through the bead blaster, and then I'll come back and we'll rivet them all together, and then put the clutch back together, and we'll have a clutch ready to go. Okay, as you can see, I've already got some of them done. I had to practice a little bit before I did it on camera. So I got the last one here to go. I bead blasted these, and then I painted them just a little bit. I didn't paint the center ones because they're just going to rub on the discs, and I didn't want that to clog up the new clutch lining. I don't know, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I just didn't want to take the chance. Okay, so to line up the discs on the clutch, you have to look for these two holes. They're the only ones that are that close together. So you got to line them up, and then you grab a rivet, stick one through, and then we're going to line up the other side, making sure that both those holes match up. And then we're just going to lightly crimp or set this rivet so that we can move the discs around a little bit to line up the rest of the holes. So on every rivet, each one is reversed from the other. One goes one way, one goes the other way. One goes, one goes from the front, one goes from the back, all the way around. So they alternate until the very last one, and then it is the same, because of the last, there's only 13, so you can't have an even number. They can't end up evenly, so they're going to not alternate the last two. So once I have them all in and all set, then I'm going to go back and crimp them all, or set them all really tight. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little grease on each one of these. Not enough really to fling it around inside, just to keep it so they slide back and forth fairly easily. Just enough, probably just enough to hold the dirt on them, but I think it should have a little on there. Okay, so I got the first lining in there, and then a clutch plate, another lining, another clutch plate, another lining, another clutch plate, and the last lining there. Alright, then I have my top plate. Okay, I got my spring, and the spring, if you don't know, it's tapered, so it only goes in one way. Well, it actually goes in either way, but you can't fit the cap on this end, so it has to go this way. So then I got the cap, and now we're just going to set it in the press, push it down far enough to get these little retaining clips on, and we'll call it a day. So let me set up the press real quick. Okay, so when I took this apart, I had to make these special little tools here to take this apart, and hopefully I'm going to be able to use them to put it back together. Uh-oh. That is sketchy. Okay, got it. So let me get it back to the workbench. So I have it almost all the way back together. I still need to clean up my throwout bearing a little bit before I add that on. And these are the parts that hold the throwout bearing on. I have these two little springs. I gotta figure out where they go. They call them anti-rattle springs, but I'm not 100% sure where they go to. And then I still have these two little pieces that were sitting in the bottom of the transmission when I took it apart. Not in the bottom of the transmission, but in the bell housing. So I have to figure out where these two go to as well. Well, they may go somewhere around here because they fit over that. Anyways, I got to take a look at that, and but for now the clutch is back together. It's all relined, and it looks really nice, and I'm sure it'll last us. So I noticed something just as I was finishing up the last shot, is these little holes right here. I had one of the discs flip the other way so they would not be able to line up. So I went ahead and switched it around so they all line up. Otherwise I'm sure it would cause me problems down the line. So 52 rivets turned out to be enough, but there were a couple I would have rather replaced. They're okay, but they didn't look as pretty as the others. So but all I had was 52, and so that's what's in there. I would suggest buying a couple extras if you're going to do it, but I made it with 52. I'm sure you could do it too, but it would be nice just to have a couple extras. So I'm going to wrap it up for the day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this episode of Rolling History. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.